Imagine waking up one day and realizing you're just $1,000 away from your lifelong financial goal. Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast. I'm your host, Darren Wirtz, financial planner for law firm owners. Today, we're diving deep into one of the biggest questions I get from attorneys. How much money do I need actually to be financially free?
We are on a mission to help lawyers and law firm owners maximize wealth and achieve financial independence. Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire with Darren Wirtz from Wirtz Financial Services.
Before we dive in, a quick plug for the Lawyer Millionaire Book Club, our exclusive book club for law firm owners and lawyers. If you're not a part of it, you should be. It's so exciting. We just finished reading The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and we're kicking off Q2 with our next read, which is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the creator of Nike. It's not only a great opportunity to read some awesome books, but it's also a fantastic way to meet other lawyers, network, and exchange ideas in a fun and engaging way. By the way, we have, I think, 75 members at this point and climbing, so get in there. The link will be in the show notes. And if you want to chat with me about your own financial goals, there's always my calendar link in the show notes. I'd love to show you how we can help you achieve your goals. All right. Let's get into our topic today, which is setting those financial goals. And I started off by talking about what if you were just $1,000 away from your all-time lifetime financial goal? And you know what? That actually comes from a real story. I remember this call. I got a call from one of my clients one day. He actually called me up. He said, you know what? I'm $1,000 away from my all-time financial goal, which for him was $1.5 million. And that was amazing, right? Now, I mean, it's been a few years since then, so he's gone even higher. But that was an incredible moment just to realize that he had set this goal for himself, and he was so close to it, and to actually realize that financial goal. And that's just the magical power of compounding. I hear this from my dad as he's retired, but his money continues to grow, and he is watching it, and he keeps telling me, he never thought he would have as much money as he has now. It just continues to compound and grow. And that's the magical power of compounding growth. $1 million used to be a huge milestone, right? Millionaire. And that's why we're called the Lawyer Millionaire. And millionaire still has a certain ring to it. It still means something, but it certainly doesn't mean what it used to mean, right? A millionaire in 1925 was a lot different than a millionaire in 2025. And that's just the reality of inflation, which we're all kind of dealing with today, right? Today we have more than millionaires. We've gone beyond billionaires. We have centibillionaires. And within our lifetimes, we will probably see our first trillionaires. Mark my words. There are changing, the meaning of financial success is changing under our feet. But anyway, hitting milestones is still important. Whether it's your first million, your first 10 million or more, setting clear goals gives you a target to aim for. So what's your number? Do you have a number? Is there a number you're trying to reach? I wonder what it is, right? What is it? Think of it. Put it in your mind. Well, let me tell you something. Money is not the goal. Money is a great goal. But money itself is not the goal. The goal is what money allows you to do. And it's not all just about a number. Let me ask you some questions. If you had $1 million, maybe you already have $1 million. If you had another $1 million, how would your life change? We always ask this question, right? If you won the lottery, what would you do, right? And it's hard to come up with an answer. If you had $5 million, would you still work? Would you work differently? What would be different about your life? Most attorneys don't really have a set retirement age like other professionals. And maybe you're the same way. Maybe you love your work, you derive purpose from it, especially if you're a law firm owner, you have a business, it's part of who you are. Business owners are really the same way, right? And so it's not necessarily about hitting a certain number so you can stop working necessarily. It's about financial independence. And that means having choice. The choice, the ability to choose whether you're going to work, whether you're not going to work, it means working on your own terms, picking the cases that you truly enjoy, or hey, walking away entirely. And that, my friends, is what we call FU money. That's the FU money stage. right? When you are at that stage where you could walk away, right? Wouldn't that be a great feeling to think, you know what? I don't have to bill. I don't have to hire. I don't have to continue growing this practice. Sure, I can if I want to, and that's fun, and I want to create a great organization, but I don't need to hire anymore, and if no more cases come in, I'll be just fine. That's what we call a work optional lifestyle. No stress. No stress. The economy can do what it wants. F you, right? The government can do what it wants. F you, because I am going to be just fine. Choosing only the high value cases, choosing only the cases that interest you, working part-time or working seasonally, running the firm without being tied to daily operations. The ability to pursue passion projects, hobbies, even a second career. The meaning of retirement is changing. When people retire, they often, statistics show that people who stop working tend to die. It's very real because our work is so much a part of our lives. And when we stop working, we become sedentary. Our minds stop thinking. We lose a lot of our sense of purpose. And so many people don't want to retire. Maybe you don't either. And that's perfectly fine. But what it is about having that work optionality. That's really, really powerful. Get the money. Get the money up front, right? Accumulate the money to get to a point where you have that freedom and that flexibility. But how much money do you actually need, right? Well, let's do some math. You ready? Ready for some math? Where are my math people at? Lawyers tend to not like math. Maybe you do. I don't know. But most lawyers I talk to, unless you're maybe in some kind of legal area that requires a lot of math. Anyway, there's parts of math I don't like either, but I tend to be pretty good at math. This math is not so hard, okay? So bear with me. I'm going to give you one simple formula, and you've probably heard this formula before. It's the 4% rule. Have you heard of the 4% rule? The 4% rule gives you a nice barometer to know how much money you need. And we've heard of it, but have you ever really used it? Have you ever really put it into practice? Just done a little test case on yourself? So the formula is this. Take your annual income goal. And by the way, if financial independence is all about income, it's about how much income can you generate. Having a stream of income that supports your life and is going to keep up with inflation. That's financial independence, period. Now, how you generate that income, that's another story. It could be your portfolio. It could be passive income sources. Let's say it's your portfolio. It's your stocks and bonds, your investment portfolio. And a lot of people get tripped up because they think they need an income producing portfolio. Well, let me tell you something. Every portfolio is income producing. Okay. And the 4% rule, basically the reason that, let me tell you where the rule comes from. There were a lot of studies done to see with different types of portfolios, different percentages of stocks and bonds, different allocations. What is the safe percentage amount at a bare minimum, or maybe maximum? I don't know. What's generally a safe percentage that you can start with, right? So you have this portfolio. I'm going to draw out a certain amount to support my lifestyle. What's a percentage you can start with? And have the ability to give yourself a raise. Now, that's the part people miss. The ability to give yourself a raise to keep pace with inflation. You see, because you're thinking 4%, well, crap, my money market is doing better than 4%, right? So that seems low. But here's the kicker. You've got to be able to give yourself a raise every year. You've got to be able to move that needle up each year because every year things are going to cost more. We started off this episode talking about $1 million today isn't what it used to be, right? So that's why we start at 4%, because it gives you the room to move higher. By the time you're older, 20, 30 years into retirement, your withdrawal rate's going to be higher, potentially. That's okay. It's going to increase slowly over time. Okay. But 4% gives you enough runway to make those increases. So they did a lot of math. They looked at all kinds of different market scenarios, right? Good markets, bad markets, bull markets, bear markets. What's the percentage that survives everything? Okay. And generally, what they came up with was 4%. Now, I can show you the studies. It varies based on your allocation, different types of portfolios, right? 4%. Now, your portfolio needs to be a mixture of two things, and I'll just caveat in this for a second. It needs to be a mixture of growth and income. Now, I just mentioned this. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking they need to switch to an income portfolio. You need growth and income. Here's why. You need to combat the effects of inflation. And the only way you're going to combat the effects of inflation is with growth. If you have a 4% bond and you're living off that income, guess what? Next year, it's not going to be enough income because everything's going to cost more and you're still going to be getting the same amount of income. So you need growth so you can buy more of the 4% bonds to get more income. This is all hypothetical, okay? Right? So hopefully I've illustrated that, let's say 50-50 or 60-40, that's the magic number, right? So a good chunk in growth, a chunk in income, you offset the risk. You've got income producing assets. You have growth to fuel more income in the future. We could get into that in a lot more detail. But anyway, we digress. So the 4% rule assumes a 30-year time frame. So generally, retire at age 65, you can last until 95. That's a good time frame. If you think you're going to retire much earlier, you're going to retire at 55, use a lower percentage, maybe 3.5%, maybe 3%, okay? And here's how the math works. It's your annual income goal divided by your percentage. I'll say that again. Your income goal, how much income you need each year, divided by 4%. In that first year, my first year of retirement, I'm going to need $100,000, okay? 100, and the next year I'm going to need more because I'm going to increase it with inflation. Okay, 100,000 divided by 4% on your calculator, you're going to do 0.04, gives you 2.5 million. Okay, so for me to have a salary basically from my portfolio of $100,000 a year at age 65, and for that to last until 95 with inflation, I need $2.5 million. Okay. You can do that on any number. Maybe it's $200,000 a year. Okay. Divide by 4%. You need $5 million to make that work. Now, there's a lot of caveats, right? Retiring at different ages, then there's the impact of Social Security, pensions, maybe you're working part-time, maybe you have other passive income sources, maybe you have other goals you want to spend money on, right? But this is actually a really good framework to help you kind of get a baseline. Now, if you are really trying to assess this in detail, we can help. This is the bread and butter of what we do. And so if you really need help diving in on this in a lot of great detail, we would love to help you. The link to my calendar is in the show notes. And by the way, listeners of this show get $250 off their first month of membership. So just mention this episode in your intro call and you'll be eligible for that. Okay. So we've talked about the 4% rule. That's how you know how much money you need to save, right? But now let's talk about how to get there, because now you can work it backwards. You know your goal, you know what you're shooting for. Now, how much money do I need to save, right? You can use a compound interest calculator to work it backwards, number of years, and figure out how much you need to save to get to that number. Let's use $2.5 million as our example. If you invest, now I'm going to use a 9% interest rate. If you invest $7,400 a year, well, $7,399, but we'll round up. Start at age 25. By age 65, you'll have $2.5 million. Let me say that again. If you invest $7,400 a year, starting at age 25, and you get a 9% rate of return, by age 65, you'll have $2.5 million. Now, there's some assumptions that go into this math, so I want you to understand this. One of the big assumptions, the biggest assumption of all, is our rate of growth. The U.S. stock market from 1950 to 2009 gave us a 10.9% average rate of return, the S&P 500. Okay, so I'm dropping that by a couple percentage points just to be safe. So you could use 11%. Which would mean you'd need even less money to invest. But here's the thing. We don't know exactly what the stock market is going to do. So always save more than you think you'll need. Always err a little bit on the side of being less optimistic, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised, right? But think about that. $7,400 a year. As a first year associate, that's nothing. Now, I know you've got your student loans, you've got all kinds of things, other things you have to pay for, but on a monthly basis, what's that? $600 a month? Am I doing my math right? $800 a month? Somewhere in there. Help me out. Okay, 600. Yeah, $600 a month is $7,200. Okay, so that's about $600 a month. You can do that. It might be a little bit of stretch at the beginning at age 25. I get that. But you just stay on pace. Stay on pace with that for the next 40 years. You'll have $2.5 million. And you may not need to save that much because you'll have employer matches in your 401k, maybe profit sharing, bonuses. All of those things can accelerate your savings. So think about that. $600 a month for 40 years can give you $2.5 million. Now, the key really is starting young. And why is that? Why is the key starting young? Because you give yourself more time for your money to compound. Let me just illustrate this for a second, right? Let's say you want to accumulate $1 million. If your time frame is 30 years, you're going to need to invest $7,336 a year. So let's say you start saving at age 20. Let's say you start saving at age 35, right? You wanted to do your loans first. You wanted to take care of some other things. So you start saving at age 35. You're going to save until 65. To get to $1 million by 65, you need to save $7,336 a year, about $600 a month, a little bit more. Okay. Let's say you started earlier. You started at age 25. The amount you need to save is less than half of that. Wow. Just a 10-year head start. You only need to start saving. You only need to start with $2,960 a year. Over a 40-year time frame, you'll get to $1 million. Wow. Wow. That's a little bit more. That's $200 some a month versus $600 some a month. That's a huge difference. But this just goes to show the power. Now, let's imagine you were able to start with the full $600 a month at age 25. You'll get to $2.5 million versus you wait 10 years, you only get to $1 million. Wow. That's incredible, right? That's the power of compounding. And all of this is, we're using a hypothetical rate of return of 9%. Okay, so starting early. You got to start early. The key is to start early. Next steps for you. Go define your number today. Determine how much you need to save. And let me give you one more example here before we go, and that's Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett, legendary investor, but Warren Buffett, not only did he invest well, he wasn't the world's greatest investor, but here's what he did. He did what he did consistently, and he got a really, really early head start. I think he started investing at the age of 10 or 11. And he was a millionaire by the age 30. Okay. He didn't become a billionaire until much later in life. So I think he was 65, or maybe, I don't know. He was later in life. Most of his money came towards the end of his life. The guy's been investing for 90 years, just about. So when you invest that long, yes, compounding is on your side. And here's the truth. Here's the lesson. A little bit of savings goes a long way. So if you've been putting off savings, if you've been putting off investing because you're growing your business, I hear you. But guess what? You got to start. You got to start now. The best time to invest was yesterday. The second best time is today. So take $100 a month. If you have not been putting any money in your investments because you've been strapped for cash, you've been putting all your money in your law firm, I get it. I support it. But you've got to take advantage of what's happening in the market, and you've got to experience that compound growth. Take $100 a month and start putting it in a brokerage account and investing it in the S&P 500. Do something, right? Because it's going to be huge down the road. It may not feel like it. We're impatient, but the key to wealth is patience. Remember, financial independence is not about hitting an arbitrary number. It's about creating the life you want. And in the next coming up episodes, we're going to talk more about that. Of course, a number does help. And a work optional lifestyle is within your reach if you just have the right plan. Start by defining a number for yourself, work it backwards to see how much you need to save on a monthly basis, and go. And you know what? This is what we do here at the Lawyer Millionaire. We help clients get on the pathway to wealth. Are you taking all the steps that you need to take to maximize your wealth and your financial well-being? Take our Lawyer Millionaire Money Mastery Assessment and find out instantly with your Money Mastery score. Just click the link in the show notes. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast. I'm your host, Darren Wirtz. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Lawyer Millionaire. Click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. This content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This content is not intended to represent investing or tax advice. Always seek the advice of a qualified investment or tax advisor with any questions you may have regarding your own financial circumstances.